Hi, I'm Dax Gordine, the creator of Forest Folk, and this is the True North Country Comics Podcast.
Welcome to the True North Country Comics Podcast, dedicated to promote Canadian comic book and graphic novel creators and supporters. I'm John Swinimer. On this episode, I chat with Dax Gordine about his comic book art and his exhibit plan for Toronto Comicon 2025. Please like and subscribe to this website by hitting the subscribe button so be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. Based in Ontario, Dax Gordine is a professional artist with jobs ranging from illustrating webcomics and graphic novels to classical film animation, including Osmosis Jones, 8 Crazy Nights, and Looney Tunes Back in Action, and computer animation for video games, including Namco High. This range of experience in both digital and traditional mediums has made Dax a versatile and dynamic artist whose work is continually in demand by peers and fans alike. His comic book work includes Giant Size Little Marvels, Untold Tales of I Hate Fairyland, and Marvel Age Fantastic Four. He's also the creator of the ongoing weekly webcomic Forest Folk. Described as the Sunday funnies crashing headlong into Looney Tunes, the story of Forest Folk features Filburt the Fox, a jokester and a know-it-all with a knack for finding trouble, and his best friend Thomas, a happy-go-lucky elf whose magic drawing quill can conjure the solution to any of their woes, most of the time. Follow the shenanigans of Filburt and Thomas and meet the quirky friends they make along the way, including no-nonsense Barry the Bearista, grumpy Cat Gus, and nerdy Benni the Bunny. Watch as they deal with playful misunderstandings and wacky hijinks during spirited adventures in the forest they all call home. Forest Folk is available in standalone collections of the much-beloved all-ages comic strip. So, without further ado, here's my chat with Dax Gordine about his comic book art and his exhibit plan for Toronto Comicon 2025. So, Dax Gordine, thank you very much for taking time to chat with me.
No problem, John.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy fellow and don't want to keep you too long, but I do have some questions for you. And the very first one is, what are you reading today? What's on your bedside reading table?
Well, actually, it's a colleague of mine. I supported his Kickstarter, I believe it was last year, but Derek Loffman's Crimson Fall, The Shore Tower, came a couple months ago, and I hadn't had time to read it. And it's a cool graphic novel. I believe it's the sequel to his series, Crimson Fall. But yeah, it's really good. So that's what I've been reading.
Nice. Good to hear. And good to hear that you have time to read, because I don't have any.
Yeah, well, I don't have much. It's been sitting there for a while. But yeah, that if I was reading, that's what it is.
Yeah, if you weren't talking to me, that's what you'd be doing. Okay, yeah. I hear you.
Mm-hmm.
I was also looking online, noticed you were at Fan Expo Vancouver with the gang from Raid Studio. I want to ask you, how was that event for you?
Oh, it was great. Other than I always love going to Vancouver. It's one of my favorite shows. But we had a bit of an ordeal. Ramon Perez and myself ended up getting delayed in Toronto by our flight by about 6 hours. So we didn't actually make it for much of day one of the show because it was Friday morning we flew in. And it was a bit exhausting to start off, but then we made up for it with the Saturday, Sunday. It was a lot of fun. And shows like that are, I don't know, it's just always great to meet up with there was returning fans, and that was great to see them. And then a whole bunch of new people that showed up and bought books. And it was really cool to do that with the fans. And then just always colleague kind of discussions are key at these events. So you finally get to kind of sit down and chat with colleagues and stuff like that. So it's good.
Yeah, that's always a good thing, too, when you network with not just new fans and existing fans, but also colleagues. I guess you can sort of brainstorm ideas, maybe come up with something for the future. That sort of thing.
Even, I mean, there's always that. I mean, that's always happening. But it's also just more just kind of, like talking industry and just becoming friends with people in the industry that that I've just seen online or heard of or whatever. And you get to meet these people and kind of shoot the breeze with them. And it's a lot of fun. Find out their stories and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's good.
Good to hear. The other thing I got to ask you is, did you find any new books? Did you bring back any books with you?
No, I did not bring any books. I find when I do conventions, I rarely find myself, I don't know if it's because I feel guilty or what, but I don't really get up and walk around the show. like ever. So like it's basically sitting there or going to the bathroom or getting some food. So yeah, I don't usually get out to see much. Yeah, so I didn't bring anything back. It was a really quick. It was over before I knew it. Definitely, yeah. It was like Monday. We were on our way back, and yeah, so I didn't really get a chance to buy any new books. No.
Well, shame about that, but I'm glad you're
Yeah,
able to network folks and
of
see
course,
some
of course.
people.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
main thing. So we're here talking because you're going to be at another event in the very near future, and that's Toronto Comicon. Wondering if you could talk a wee bit about different artwork that you'll have at your table to sell to fans.
We're not starting the Kickstarter, unfortunately, for my next book, Forest Folk Volume 4, until May. So for this March show, we're still going to have Volume 1, 2, and 3. We're going to have a coloring book there. We have all my usual merch. But I'm also going to be opening up commissions too, which I usually don't do. I usually just kind of sit there and talk books. I'm going to have some examples there of I'm doing comic sketch covers, just having some fun with that. And obviously that'll, I'll have a little sign saying what I'll be doing for commissions and whatnot. So if people are interested, they can come up and get something like that from me. So yeah,
Nice.
that's pretty much the latest edition is going to be actually commissions and sketches and stuff.
Sounds good. So this leads me to a next question. You posted online, I think it was Instagram, that you were doodling away, random doodling when you were at Fan Expo Vancouver, and you switched up your regular tools.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. What are these random tools or new tools that you switch up, and do you do this to challenge yourself?
Lately, actually, I've been kind of since the new year and a little bit in December, I've been trying to kind of push myself. I kind of felt like I was getting in a bit of a rut of how I was drawing, and not that it was bad or anything like that. I felt like I was kind of spinning my wheels, and I was trying to get inspired by other stuff. And so I started kind of drawing a little differently and kind of trying to push my style from more of like a kid's cartoony look into a more kind of like manga comic kind of thing slash all my influences wrapped into one. So if you see my Instagram and whatnot, you'll probably see a big kind of smorgasbord of looks over the past little while. But at the show, the difference is I was on pen and paper because I rarely do traditional stuff. It's usually digital. And I was using a Micron pen. And I've really started to like the Micron pen recently. I grew up as an animator and was very kind of like, I wanted all my pencils to be very loose and dark and kind of like graphite-y and like very messy and kind of like really heavy-handed. And the Micron pen is so fine and kind of sketchy, almost like it's very angular, can create different looks. And I've really been enjoying that look lately. And I've kind of found it's almost like that pen is kind of giving me a way of seeing through a rough drawing and nailing a line almost better than kind of just redrawing it with the same kind of feel over top of a rough drawing with just a darker layer. So it's been a fun experience for me. I'm still learning a lot, still having fun, but it's just the little small victories that make it worthwhile.
I hear what you're saying, but pen is not very forgiving when it comes to doing artwork, right? You're committed to it.
Yeah, and what's funny is I've seen a couple of my favorite artists on Instagram are people that can draw. I've never been one to be able to just draw straight on, like say draw the eyes to the nose to the cheeks to the facial hair to the all that kind of stuff if I'm drawing a portrait. And it just amazes me because I'm very much like I need to draw my shapes, my crosshairs, all the all the rough stuff underneath. But it was fun. I did one during that sketch, those pages that you're talking about. I actually did just go straight to one. I did a face of a character, just going straight to the pen, and it was actually very freeing and actually quite interesting to see if I slow down and pay attention. As Ramon was saying, you've been drawing for like 25 years, 30 years now. So there's probably something in there, that can do it. You know what I mean? You'd be surprised. And I was quite surprised. I kind of like let it happen. And I was sort of able to do it. Not quite at the level of the guys I admire, but it was fun to do. So I'm going to probably do some more of that too.
Sounds good. So this will be your tool of choice when you're doing commissions at Toronto Comicon then.
Well, it's a bit of both. Column A, column B. I'll probably for commissions. I don't know if I'm comfortable enough to go that extreme. But I definitely use Micron pens. So yes, you'll see Micron pens in the commissions. Yeah.
Cool. You just talked about a Kickstarter book for Forest Folk coming up. I wonder if you could talk a little bit for people not familiar with that series. Maybe you could give us an elevator pitch about that.
Yeah, sure. Forest Folk is my comic strip that I've been working on for about 8 years now. And it's basically my love letter to the 80s comics I grew up reading in the newspapers. So your Calvin and Hobbes, your Garfield, your Hagar the Horrible, all the ones that I would cut out and put up on my wall. Forest Folk is my take on that in the sense that I created two characters called Filburt the Fox and Thomas the Elf, and they're basically two best friends. The comic strip just revolves around their daily life in the forest, the hijinks they get up to, the friends they have, and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of different animals in the forest that have different jobs and positions in the forest, and they have like a big family. So it's just a fun little comic strip, all ages, friendly, kind of fun thing that I've been doing for a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit of everything for everybody. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. So that's your Kickstarter coming up. I'm wondering, do you have any other projects on the go that you can talk about?
Not really, because recently I've had a lot of downtime to work on my own property stuff. So I'm definitely really diving in deep. I need to get some more of these comics done because for volume 4, I still have to finish some before. The way that the series worked is I'd been doing it for 8 years, like I said, and I only started making books about 4 years ago. So I had a lot of catalog there. I have 430 strips, but now we're at the point where I need to actually to fill a book of 120, which we generally do. I need to finish off another 30 or 20. So I'm working on those. I'm also working on ideas for public domain stuff, like a graphic novel of those characters too. So I'm kind of piecing those together for a fun little kind of journey into the realm of like a longer form graphic novel style book with them and telling stories that would be probably recognizable to people around the world, kind of thing. So that's exciting for me.
Yeah, but it'll still be on the same type of theme. You're not going to venture off into like the dark recesses of.
No, it won't. It'll
Okay.
it'll still be within that property. So it won't be like by any means like, super edgy. Like the way I kind of explain my work to people is I come from the Disney school of, like I grew up on all those films, like the animation, and I wanted to be an animator, and I did some so like that's kind of my entertainment ballpark, is usually kind of like an all ages animation kind of vibe. So yeah, it'll just be within that realm of the forest folk characters, but then maybe telling another story, you know what I mean, like a public domain story, like all those like Jules Verne's books and stuff like that. I'm kind of doing some research. I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there one Disney animated film that you sort of look towards as something that you'd like to imitate or inspire you? Was there one particular?
Well, I will say, my favorite one has always been, hands down, was Beauty and the Beast. That's the one that inspired me the most. That's where I learned of Glenn Keane, the supervising animator that basically inspired me in the world of animation the most of all time. Anyone out there that knows animators knows Glenn Keane. And he drew the Beast, he drew Aladdin, Tarzan, Ariel. He was one of the big guns at Disney for a long time. Beauty and the Beast has always been my favorite and always been the most inspiring because it's kind of like the Beast character. I love it when you can have that sort of dark character, but in that world. You know what I mean? So he sits on that fine line where you get the kind of dark, moody, very cool, big design, and yet it still fits in that world of the Disney film kind of stuff. So yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, that's kind of neat because there are occasions in that movie where he's not dark and moody, where he's actually kind of funny in a way,
Exactly.
which is difficult to do with
And
that big
I like playing in that kind of world where there's the two extremes, right? So it's always more fun for a character to have extremes, in my opinion. So
absolutely, yeah, for sure. Now we've been talking about Fan Expo Vancouver and Toronto Comicon. I wonder if you have any other conventions or festivals lined up this year.
I believe I'm staying pretty local this year. That one in Vancouver was the travel show. I did out east last year, which was really, really nice, but we're taking a break from that this year. So I'll be doing the Toronto show. So I believe I'm doing TCAF and Fan Expo in August. Other than that, I think that's probably it. Yeah, so I'm basically local. So anybody local can come find me.
Sounds good. Well, speaking of finding you, where do you recommend that people go online to find out about your current and your future projects?
Easiest is daxgordine.com. So just my name and .com. And it's got all my socials linked up at the top. It's got a link to my shop. It's got a link to the comic strip. So yeah, that's the perfect place to find me.
Thanks to Dax for the chat. You can discover more about Dax online at daxgordine.com and on Instagram at instagram.com/D__GEE. And thank you for tuning in to the True North Country Comics podcast. I invite you to visit the True North Country Comics website to listen to even more conversations and discover more about creators' insight on making comic books and graphic novels. I also encourage you to subscribe via the website so you'll be notified about new podcast interviews and article posts. This podcast is available wherever podcasts are enjoyed. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You can follow along True North Country Comics on most social media sites, and you're encouraged to send any and all feedback to John at truenorthcountrycomics.com. Thanks for tuning in, and come back soon for another episode. Bye for now. True Earth Country Comics podcast is copyright True Earth Country Comics, copyright 2025.